You are about to listen to an exclusive interview on Maximum Threshold Radio. Thanks for listening to us at MaximumThreshold.net. Horns up, fists in the air.
Call the Duke of Metal. Michael's man crush.
Stop it.
It's true.
Hey, what's going on?
What's up, Rich Ward?
What are you doing?
We're out here hanging out here, playing some Fozzy, and
Nice.
got you on here.
That's right.
Well, listen, it's an honor. I'm so glad that we're hooking up tonight to chat for a bit.
Nice. Yeah, you got so much stuff going on, man. We had to get you on here just for an update because we've been hearing so much stuff about the Fozzy world, and man, it's starting to blow up again. And looking forward to this because summertime's right around the corner, and we know how you guys are on the road.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of touring stuff coming up, none of which I have any permission to talk about because when it comes to promoters, they have a time schedule in which they like to make their announcements, and that's all corresponding with the venues and stuff, but lots of exciting stuff. Obviously we've got Rock'em Range, and we've got Carolina Rebellion, but we've a couple of big festivals in Florida. So those are already on sale, and we're super excited about that. But right now, what I've kind of been consumed with for the last few months is writing a record, and we've had a few little tours that have been in the kind of writing process period of time. We did a tour of Australia with Buck Cherry and the Steel Panther guys, which was great. And then we did a run in the States with the Saxon guys, which was amazing.
Oh yeah!
So we've been staying pretty busy. Matter of fact, I saw you guys when we were in town.
That's right. It was the
Saxon.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a great hang.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was. My lady was like, "Oh, I thought you were going to kidnap that guy."
You couldn't kidnap me because kidnapping is an act against the unwilling. I'm willing to go with you, so it's technically not a kidnapping.
Yeah, she's like,
you guys are like two of my oldest metal brethren,
thanks, man.
or brethrens, or whatever. I guess I can make up a word. I don't even think brethren really is technically I think it's a word they used in the 1800s that we just have decided to drag along, so I can use it improperly if I want.
That's perfect.
Right. Yeah, we'll probably get to come down and see you at Rock on the Range.
Right, yep.
Nice.
Yeah, I looked over the lineup. I'm like, oh shit, Fozzy's there.
Yeah, you said there's like 7 good bands are going to be there.
Yeah, like out of 100 of those bands, there's like maybe 7 to 10 that I like. Well, Motorhead dropped off, so.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I read that. What's his name? God, I'm drawing a blank. Lemmy has some health issues, and he canceled
his liver's kicking in again.
I don't know. He might have the beaties like you, Dom.
I don't know. I think his liver's kicking.
So, who are you? You said you're on the way to a gig tonight. Is Fozzy playing tonight?
No, I'm driving down to Tampa. We're recording all of Chris's vocals in Tampa. It just works out better. We've done that for the last 2 records, and because as anyone who's ever recorded a record knows, usually your singer's not going to sing more than 2 or 3 or 4 hours a day, depending on how they're doing. It's just because the vocal cords are just a muscle, and like any muscle, it's like once you've used it and really exerted it to its maximum, to the brink of its abilities, at some point it starts to fall off in its strength, and you start getting diminishing returns on it. So what we'll do is we'll get down and we'll work for 3 or 4 hours, and then Chris will go back home and hang with his family, and then I'll work on guitars or bass, or I have a laundry list of things that need to be done, because we're basically the only thing that I'll reel it back to the beginning. The way we make records is we basically record albums twice. We'll do pre-production demos, which means the entire album will be recorded in a demo form, and those will go through various versions, and we all will sit around and say, hey, let's try this, let's try that, and once we've settled on a version, then we'll go in and actually record the final takes. And all of the demos are done with programmed drums. It's not like we're all sitting in a room going through them. Everybody obviously has some input, but they're done kind of scratched out. So it's kind of like drawing up a blueprint like you would on a house, before you start banging, the nails in the wood. We're all kind of sketching it out to just get the rough outline of the draft of the songs. And all those were finished right around New Year's. And we tracked drums 2 weeks ago, and they really, really sound amazing. Frank, as always, I've been playing with Frank for 20 years, and he and I have just continued to enjoy not only like our family love for each other, but also just we're definitely. I guess when you grow up playing music together, you're kind of learning how to play your instruments in tandem, and just like I guess Alex and Eddie, or Dime and Vinny, when you play with somebody for a really long period of time, you really, you're starting to mold your playing around them, and vice versa. So we play really well together, and he did a great job, and Paul, our bass player, has got a studio up in New Jersey. So he's been tracking bass stuff up there, but he's going to come down to Atlanta to our studio and finish all the final takes down in Atlanta. And I'm headed to Tampa to do vocals with Chris, and that'll be 10 days of vocal tracking down here. And so it's funny because in the old days, in my old band Stuff Mojo, everybody would just go into the studio, and 3 weeks later you'd come out and you're done. And it's not that we couldn't do that. It's that we play in a band where every member of the band has just a laundry list of other projects or other careers. And, obviously, the singer of Fozzy, Chris Jericho, is, he's prolific in the things that he does. He's got one of the number one podcasts in the world right now, and either doing his video. I guess he's got a YouTube channel series that's really successful right now, and he's always doing stuff for television and movies, and so he stays busy, and it just makes better sense that, well, this is the way that it works for us. And I guess lots of bands they just figure out what works. You know what I mean? It's just it's like if you want to put on 20 pounds of muscle, not 10 different people have to do it 10 different ways, because everybody, likes a different diet and different workout routine. And we've been together as a band for 14 years, and we just figured out what works. And it may seem kind of strange. It's like, you mean you guys don't sit in the studio all together and play the songs? And I would say, well, nobody does that anymore, not even Aerosmith. Yeah. It's the dark side of technology. And, when computers make it easy to record things separately and to be a little bit more clinical, then we've taken advantage of that. It's not the old days of the Beatles where there's 3 microphones in the room and everybody huddles around it and plays the songs, and you've made a whole record in 8 hours. And so maybe that's a bad thing that we don't make records like that anymore, but we don't. And so we're in the process of doing it the way we do it.
Nice. So, you brought up the Beatles. Are you a fan of the Beatles?
I'm not. Jericho is a massive Beatles fan, and so for him, I know he was really excited about the whole thing. But me, I'm kind of like the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and Hendrix. Like, I'm a fan of like songs. And I'll occasionally listen to like a greatest hits record, or I'll put a playlist together of 10 or 12 of my favorite Beatles songs, just to kind of listen at the gym or something. But it's not a band where I own all of the albums and I can tell you the backstory behind the lyrics of "I Am a Walrus." I'm not that kind of fan. Okay. Not like I am with a band like Journey or Van Halen. The like my era of music that I really love is late 70s. That's kind of like late 70s Queen and Bad Company and Foreigner and Styx and Ted Nugent and Rush. You know, that era in Kansas, you know, to me, like, that's like, and I think it's because, you know, that's when I first discovered music, that's the kind of rock music that was popular. You know, Highway to Hell was just coming out when I was discovering rock music, and so I always still gravitate towards those albums, whereas my parents were kind of not so hip, so we never had the Beatles or the Stones in my house. My mom listened to John Denver and Gordon Lightfoot, so, you know, I had like 70s easy listening in my house, which, you know, I don't listen to now. I don't have fond memories of my mom listening to Dan Fogelberg.
And English Dan. I'm actually I go through my moments of yacht rocking. I'm not going to deny it.
Dude, I love yacht rock, but like I don't consider Dan Fogelberg necessarily yacht rock. Like yacht rock to me is Steely Dan and the Doobies and like Andrew Gold, and like I love those bands. I'm way into like that style of
Michael
music.
McDonald.
I love Kenny Loggins. Like, don't get me wrong, but sometimes like some of that music from the 70s was designed for women, and the only time dudes would listen to it is if they felt like they could get lucky with that woman while listening to it.
Yeah, like I don't know. That's funny because, like, you know, I like a lot of that stuff. Like, I like Hall and Oates.
Yeah.
And
oh, come on! I love 70s Hall and Oates, and even some of the cheesy 80s stuff that people give such grief to, like Man Eater and Private Eyes. Like, there was something amazing about a good pop song is a good pop song. It doesn't matter if it's ABBA or if it's Jim Croce. A great pop song is a great pop song.
Yeah. So speaking of that, when are we going to see the Duke on live from Daryl's house?
That's a good question.
Yeah, man, those guys are such badass cats. Listen, that's like saying, hey, when is Ozzy going to play live on Saturday Night Live? It's not like we've been asked and we've turned it down, you know? I mean, I obviously, Daryl Hall's one of my favorite singers. He's amazing, and I've actually seen Hall and Oates 2 or 3 times in the last 10 years. I'm a big fan of that style of music. I'm a huge Michael McDonald fan. Seriously, like if I go to see live music, most of it is that era of stuff because, again, like, you know, it's like movies. I mean, we're the Star Wars generation, so like kids who are 10 years old now who watch Star Wars are like, that looks like crap. Have you seen like Transformers? So that looks awesome. But we grew up with that. It's like, hey, I know it's like a somewhat of an ancient technology when
like
it comes
Exorcist.
to filmmaking, but there's something, it has a charm, and it's what we grew up on, so it's what we know, which is the reason why we probably like 70s muscle cars, and, you know, I'd rather have a GTO than some little Subaru with a loud muffler on it. Like, it's just generational. It's what you grow up to, and it's what, you know, what your older brother's friends drove, and, you know, like, when I saw, like, my babysitter listening to Ted Nugent Double Live Gonzo, it's like, yeah, like she's hot. She's like 8 years older than me, and she's like wearing Daisy Duke shorts. So Ted Nugent has to rule, and that's how we kind of discover who we are. Is we gravitate towards things that people, you know, who we think are cool. What do they like? And so, you know, which is why you see people like. You know, the who's who of pop music nowadays being popular. It's like when people are young, their process of determining what is cool and what they like, there is a bit of a mentality of, hey, it's what that person thinks is cool, and I like that person, so by proxy I will kind of assimilate into that. And then there's the other cause, which is the I could go punk rock and take the opposite turn. But if you do that, you're just going to be bullied. So accept it. It's going to be one way. Either you're wearing heavy eyeliner and you like the Smiths and the Cure, or you like Ted Nugent growing up. And if you like the Smiths and the Cure, get ready for a beatdown because it's coming your way.
Yeah, The Cure has some good songs. The reason I laughed when you said Michael McDonald,
You do a hell of
is 'cause
imitation.
Before, when you said Doobie Brothers, I was going to start doing my Michael McDonald impersonation. And one, not in love anymore.
That I've only like openly wept at 2 concerts in my life, and one was Michael McDonald walked out on stage, and no intro music, nothing. It was like the weirdest thing. The lights were still kind of on in the house, so it was like he was doing the rock star entrance. Like he was like, okay, I want to try to show people that it's about the song, it's about the audience and the singer connecting through these jams and these performances. And he walked out, started playing piano, and then just went into, you don't know me, but I'm your brother. And I was like openly started weeping just because I resonated so much with what he was doing, and that moment realizing like this is real. I've seen so many big concerts with the big pomp and circumstance, and I loved it, but there was something that was so unique about what I was seeing, a dude and an electric piano and that voice and just, the rawness and how there's just not a lot of people who could do that and do it well, especially in this generation where, it's a little bit more about, the clothes and the production and the dancers and all that stuff, at least in pop music.
Yeah.
And, even in rock and roll, even the big acts in rock and roll, there's tons of pyro and big stage sets and stuff. And I love that stuff. But, and Jericho and I have had these talks a bunch where, we kind of fantasize about, okay, well, what's the next step for us production-wise? And for me, it's always Van Halen Fair Warning tour.
Oh yes.
It's like I don't want big, castles and huge video screens and stuff. I just want stacks of speakers and more lights. More of that old conventional lighting, just those banks of freaking old par cans, the kind that makes the central grid dim slightly.
Right.
The kind that you get the global warming religious cult folks that come down and they protest your concert because you suck so much of the juice off the main grid. Just I love that conventional old school. It's loud and it's bright and it's ugly. You know what Motorhead does? It's like we're not apologizing for the fact that we may loosen your feelings with this. It's rock and roll, and I don't, like I said, I love, and I saw Motley Crue and Kiss 2 summers ago when they toured together. That was a great show and I loved it. I thought Crue was amazing. Their stage show was badass, and on the other side of the coin, a band like Shine Down with their production, with all their pyro and their screens. It's amazing. I loved it, and I thought it's a great show. I'm just speaking for me. If you tell me who do I resonate and who am I, I'm much more into the Pantera and the Van Halen method of bludgeoning you with just old school power and the performance and the connection with the audience. And sure, if you want to blow some crap up along the way, that's fine too. But it's not, I just don't want the blowing the crap up to be the star of the show. If we're not the star of the show and we're having to blow crap up to make up for the fact that we're not able to seal the deal, then to me, I'm not so sure if I could walk off the stage and feel good about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so, and plus, if you do all that crazy pyro and stuff, you're not going to be able to crop dust Chris Jericho when you're running around on stage. Or Paul, or even jump up on the drum riser and hit Frank with a flyby.
Well, that's true, but it depends on my protein intake, whether I'm up for crop dusting on that day. It depends. And it's funny that you say that because I'm obsessed now with burritos. I love the Chipotle thing. So the more Chipotle that I consume on tour, the more crop dusting will take place on stage.
Did you ever think about crop dusting some of the scarves on Chris's mic stand when he was like off the side of the stage, just to get him a good for making you listen to something on the bus you didn't want to listen to?
No, because you see, crop dusting has to be a gentleman's game. So you wouldn't like crop dust just to crop dust. The point is that if you've got gas and it's going to happen anyway, then the game is I'll just run by quickly, just share it. There's no sense in like you don't want to be mean about it. I'm just saying if it's going to happen anyway, why not entertain your brothers in the band by letting them know that you're having a little disturbance in the intestinal region.
Did you ever fail on a trust fart? Did you ever gamble and lose on stage?
I've shit on stage twice, and I don't mean like in a bucket. I mean full trowel, and they were both Stuck Mojo era, and that was like, that was during the era of I was trying to be a pro bodybuilder at the same time I was trying to be a guitar hero. So I was consuming probably, 500 grams of protein a day, eating eight meals, and it was and then doing the death metal vocal choruses and stuff that I would do. It was a combination that was doomed to fail. And so I remember one time in Knoxville, Tennessee, we were doing our old song FOD, where the chorus is FOD, and then I would do death metal. Right. Well, Doom turned into full trowel full of Doom. And so as soon as I did, it was the force of the diaphragm that just forced out too many hard-boiled eggs earlier in the day. So I ran behind the amp, still playing guitar, and because that was back when I was carrying 3 full stacks, so you could actually kind of keep playing and hide behind your amp line. And the opening band, who I should have remembered their name because I wanted to appreciate this, to thank them for it down the road, but right before we went on, he's like, "Hey man, thanks for letting us play with you guys." And they were a local Knoxville band, and I want to give you my T-shirt. So luckily that band's T-shirt was sitting on top of my rig back there. So I used it as the ultimate pooper scooper. One good clean wipe because I'm high in fiber. It was a clean one, and just you're back to business.
Oh my God,
that's professional.
Was that on the Rising tour?
I'm going to say yes, it was, because Corey was still in the band, yeah.
Because that's when you guys were all jacked, and DDP was on the cover. Yeah, that was actually the Rising tour was the first time I saw you guys. And I was into you guys for a couple years, and that was the first time I got to see you guys. And I was so bummed out because all you had at the merch table was a medium of your basketball jersey. And I'm like, I'm not going to fit into a medium. I haven't fit into a medium since I went from being a husky to a slim in like 9th grade. I'm like, oh man, but
those were awesome jerseys, man. I still have a couple of them, but we used to buy those jerseys from. There was a company up in New Jersey who did all the printing for all those NBA jerseys. Listen, I'm not a basketball fan, so I couldn't tell you who was who, but. I know they printed shirts for at least a good many of the pro teams, and we would just buy their blanks from them, and then we would print on top of real NBA jerseys, like our names and our logo and the tour and stuff. Those were the coolest shirts, man.
They were pretty cool. I was bidding on one on eBay actually, and some dude at the last minute swooped in.
I hate that when it happens.
I think the guy got like $100 for it.
Damn.
Because I was like I was about to shell 80 out for it, and the guy came in and like bumped that up, and I'm like, I'm getting this jersey. And then at the last minute, the guy went up to 100. Because like I kept going up from 80, and he must have put his max bid in at 100, so I kept going up $1. Until I got it up to 99, and then the time ran out. So he got it for like $100.
Damn.
Yeah, I've lost some really nice collectible pieces on eBay. Like, I've learned my lesson that I have to determine how much am I willing to spend and then I just go big, and then, but I'll do it in, like, if I'm willing to go $120, I'll go $120 and 2 pennies or something, just in case somebody else hits 120 that I can win it. But yeah, that's a demoralizing game, is bidding on, especially when you're bidding on guitars or old vintage vinyl or something, and like it's so hard to find these things. But what are you gonna do?
So I know you're working on the Fozzy album. You got the tour, and you talked about Stuck Mojo. Is there anything with Stuck Mojo going on? Like any plans with what's his name, Lord Nelson or Bones? Is there anything going on with either one of them, potentially with a Stuck Mojo reunion down the road?
Well, there's no communication at this moment, and the reason is that there's such good camaraderie in Fozzy right now, and we're really making good music together as a band, and it's a lot of fun. And that's one of those things. It's like if you can make a living with people that you really like, and you have a good time doing it, you got to ride that, man. Because the thing about Stuck Mojo is that we were a great band, and we really we really enjoyed making music together. But there wasn't a lot of time where we liked each other. There was a lot of what I saw in a lot of other bands when we toured too, which is another reason why it's fun to be in Fozzy, because when we toured as an opening band with Stuck Mojo for years, and also on shows with Fozzy, you start to see the dynamics with other bands, because it doesn't take long on tour. If you're out on the road for 4 or 5 or 6 weeks with a band, after the first 3 or 4 days, you get a good picture of, do these guys like each other? Do they hang out with each other? Do they have separate dressing rooms? Do they, and most of these bands, they're really functionally, musically playing well together, but there's such a dysfunctional relationship. A lot of times these guys don't like each other, but they're out there making money, and they don't know what else to do. And it's like, God, such a, I'm not saying anything that anyone doesn't know, but we toured with Pantera in '99 when that band was completely fractured into 2 camps, and it seemed weird to me, even though they were still the greatest heavy band on the planet, and I was still amazed how great they were. After the shows, they didn't hang. Before the shows, they didn't hang. You could almost it almost felt like they ignored each other. There was no, I didn't see friction, but like I said, it did remind me of when I'm a kid, 16 years old, thinking about wanting to be in a band. I wouldn't have ever thought that we really would talk to my bandmates except for, right before we go on stage. And that went with a bunch of bands, There was always kind of some weird stuff. I mean, whether it was Life of Agony and Typo Negative and Testament, there was always those little weird fractions. You'd see it in every band, even in, Machine Head to a lesser degree. There's always these little tensions, and I started to recognize that a lot of these bands, they just weren't happy. And for me, touring with Fozzy is great. The band is amazing. Chris is one of the best frontmen in the business. So we're not lacking anything as a live band, and I'm really in a great position because the band allows me to be the leader of the music creation side of things. So, I have such amazing latitude, and everybody trusts me as the primary songwriter, and I also get to produce the album. So it's gratifying that I get to be able to do that as well. And we're able to, we're not a huge band. I mean, we're still playing large clubs and small theaters, and we get lucky to be on some big festivals with some big bands, and we're still growing. That's the great thing about it. I feel like Stuck Mojo in 1998 is kind of where Fozzy is, where because I've been there before, I know what momentum feels like, and we were one of the few bands on Century Media last year that made them money. And it's tough to make money in the music business these days for a label, because, there's not a lot of people buying records, and, we're able to go out and tour on our own without having to beg the label for tour support money, and we got it's a cool thing. I mean, like I said, when I think about how difficult it is to make a living playing music. Now, granted, we can pick out examples like Alter Bridge, and we can look at bands like Avenged Sevenfold, and we can come up with 20 examples. But how many bands can you name that are kind of current, contemporary hard rock and metal bands that are making money, that are actually out, being able to go out on the road and pay their rent? I don't mean mansions. I mean just get by. Yeah. And I can't name a bunch of them, and I can tell you just because I'm in the business and I know what guys get paid, and it's a hard business. And if you can do what you love and you can make music that you want to, because I'm not sacrificing. It's not like when we make records, we sit around and go, well, we better make a record that people are going to like. We don't care. Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's nice to get great reviews, but if you make the album you want to make and you believe in it, if someone gives you a crappy review, you don't care. Because then it becomes just a matter of taste. It's like if you're a movie director and you make the movie that you believe in and you think the script is amazing and the performances are great and you think you edited it perfectly, and if someone gives you a bad review, you don't care. Why would you argue with them? It doesn't matter. Exactly. You made this thing, and it was your vision and your sweat and your passion, and not everyone's going to like it. And matter of fact, not even all of your fans are going to like it. I've learned that over the years that, no matter what you do. I remember, people used to always say, I love Snapping Necks, stuck Butcher Snapping Necks, and we made Pig Walk, and a lot of our fans were pissed. They didn't like that record. And then we made Rising, and a lot of our fans who loved Pig Walk hated Rising. And you just got to know that you're either going to do what AC/DC and Motorhead do, which is and ZZ Top, and that's pretty much stick to a formula that works. And dude, those are three of my favorite bands. So trust me when I say I'm okay with that for them. But for me, like I want to try new things. I'm kind of a seeker. Like I want to better myself. I'm constantly looking at new diets, and I don't mean to lose weight. I mean to be healthier, and I'm looking at new exercise routines, and I'm looking at new scales to play on guitar and new chords, and I'm trying to teach myself. I'm become a decent piano player. I'm still working to be a good singer. Like I want to be just better at things, and the idea of putting out a record that was pretty much the same as I did last time. I'm not saying that I would be bummed out, but to me, like, it wouldn't be as exciting as pushing myself to try something a little different and to push myself as a musician and as a songwriter. And so for me, I guess it's different for different people, but I'm lucky in that I grew up poor. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment, and my sister and I shared a room, and I didn't know what air conditioning was ever until, I got my second apartment when I was 23 years old. That was just something I didn't know. And we always had crappy cars, and I lived in my rehearsal space with no running water, and my bed was a piece of 2x4s, on the milk crates. And I've been poor to the point that living the way I do now is like hitting the jackpot. The fact that I have a house, that I don't share walls with somebody else, and that I have a car that cranks every time that I get in it, and it has air conditioning, a CD player, and I'm actually writing the kind of music that I want to, and I make the records that I want to. Century Media doesn't come to our studio and say, hey, what's going on? Let me hear the songs. I send them to them because I want them to hear them, but I've never had a relationship with any label where they have approval, where they say, you have to do this. If you're signed to Atlantic Records, you can't just put anything you want on an album unless you're a multi-platinum artist. And even then, they don't want to take the risk with that kind of money on the line for you to put out whatever you want to. There's songwriters involved and producers and A&R people and executive VP this and product manager this and CEO this. And there's so many fingers in the pie that a lot of times, you know, it's not what the band would have written. There's so many voices outside of the band involved. When you get a Fozzy record, it's Fozzy. Nobody had a say. Nobody made a suggestion. This is just what we do. And I think that's pretty freaking cool. And I don't take it for granted, which is why I work hard. And you know, I'm humbled and real honored to be in a position that I am. And that's why I say it's worked thus far. And I've never tasted the silver spoon, and I don't have a hot tub in my backyard, and I still cut my own grass. So, you know, like I'm good with where I am. So, and you know, my hero is Devin Townsend. You know, he's always been the guy that I've looked to. We worked together on the Big Walk record for Stuck Mojo in '96, and he's kind of been my kind of go-to guy. Because he's always done things by his terms. He's done everything he's done. It's been because he wanted to do it, and it was his voice and his inspiration. And I couldn't respect somebody more in the music business.
Yeah, it is awesome when you can do what you really want to do, and like you said, and make a living at it. And you know, the one thing is, Fozzy, I've seen you guys like maybe 3-4 times now.
Yeah.
And you guys are definitely a powerhouse live.
There's no doubt.
There's definitely a live band. I like the albums, I really do, but seeing them live,
it's a different animal.
It really jumps off, and you know. And do you have the same full band? Do you still have all 5 of you the same guys?
Yeah, we do, and that's been, you know, going back like. You know, as I was saying it probably came out kind of weird as I was trying to describe the album recording process. But the truth about making albums is that there's no, like, right or wrong. When it comes down to it, you just have to experiment to find out what works best for your band. And that's what we've done. I mean, you got to think Fozzy's been a part-time band for most of its career until about 2008, when we really started touring, and Chris started taking more and more time off of wrestling to pursue a music career. I was still heavily involved with Stuck Mojo, and I had a side project, 6 Speed, and I was putting out solo records, and so, you know, Fozzy was a project. It didn't really become a band until, you know, probably 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. And a lot of that came from just, we had scattered interests, and Fozzy was a thing that we did. And we worked hard at it, but we only worked hard at it while we were on it, if that makes sense. It's like having, you know, you're a race car driver and you have 5 or 6 cars. It's like, if you're spending, you know, your time spread across 5 or 6 cars, as opposed to focusing on one car and making it the best and the fastest. And that's kind of why I felt like it took Fozzy a little longer to kind of, you know, develop into a band, because most bands develop by getting in a van together and traveling for months and years and learning each other as musicians and getting to become brothers and playing every shithole in the world. Is just learning the music business and how to interact on stage, and learning the nuances of everybody's playing. Who are you as a writer? And you discover who each other are as artists as you do that. Well, we never had that. We just, when we had time off, we'd go play a show in New York City, and then we'd play like a show in DC, and then we wouldn't play again for 2 months, and then we'd play a show in Charlotte, North Carolina, and one in Raleigh, and then we wouldn't play again in 2 months. Like, that's how Fozzy existed. We were just a part-time band that really played whenever we could find time off from Chris's wrestling schedule and the rest of our music schedules from our other bands.
Yeah.
And again, you know, and that goes for writing and recording too. Like, until you really start to work together as a group and find out what that chemistry is, how you work together as a band, and how you write together, and what's the best formula, you know, that takes time. And that goes with everything, whether it's sports or, you know, or being an artist or a writer or whatever it is that you do. Even if you're a newscaster or whatever, a broadcaster like you guys did. I'm sure if you listen back to your earlier shows, from years ago, it's just the more you do something, and especially chemistry, like the two of you guys working together, it's like the more you do it, the more you learn when that somebody's going to say something, when the other guy should take a step back and work off each other. And that's something that's important to find that in Fozzy. And we didn't have that for years because we were just 5 good musicians going out and having a good time. And there was no objective of like looking into the future. We were just, it was a side project. It was fun. So, you know, I when people say, hey, you know, the band's gotten a lot better, well, yeah, it had to, because, you know, at the beginning, it was not being nurtured. It wasn't, there was no time spent on it. So, listen, every band tells you this is going to be their best record. I'm not saying it because, listen, I'm a 45-year-old man. I've made 18 albums. This is the best Fozzy record, the one we're making right now. The only thing that would keep it from happening is if something happened in the recording process and
or you shit your pants in the studio.
Catastrophe of some sort. But as far as the songs are concerned, they're really great songs. Everybody's playing and singing better than they ever have, and the camaraderie's great in the band. And so, like for me, I'm getting back to your question. We will do something with Stuck Mojo again. It's just the time is not right now, because it would be foolish for me to not dance with the best dance partner in the room right now.
That's
and,
right.
You know, and I'm not sure if the other, you know, I mean, Lord Nelson, you know, he was the guy that stepped in for Bones when Bones wasn't able to tour anymore for a number of reasons. And that wasn't a choice he made. It was a choice that the band and management made, saying, yeah, you can't tour anymore. You don't see that as being the case, but we see that as being the case. And so we're going to make that decision for you. And Lord Nelson, man, I love making records with that guy. He is such a talented guy, and he's an artist. He's a great vocalist, and he's fun to make records with. He's into like, let's try this, let's try this. He has like that spirit of like, nothing is off the table. Let's work. Let's try everything. And he, you know, if I say, I'm not sure, he doesn't take it personal. You know, it's like, he's just a perfect guy to work with and make music with. So I really enjoy that. But then there's so many people that just want to see Stuck Mojo with Bones again. But again, for me to do it, it's like me saying, hey, you know, there's so many people that really, you know, that want to see the original Fleetwood Mac back together again, and they want to see all the members, or I want to see Pink Floyd back together again. It's like at some point, guys have to decide if it's even worth it. Even if the money is great, even if it means playing in front of big audiences and making some cash, and is it worth it in the long run? You know, would you go back and remarry your ex-wife unless you knew that it was all good? And do any of us ever know? So it's like assessing the risk. And I love Bones. He is a great guy, but he's and no, everybody knows this. It's not like I'm telling some secret. He's just dealt with addiction. Is it any different from 50% of the other musicians in the world? No. But the difference is that I don't want to deal with it. That's it. You know, it's like sometimes it's like, you know, sometimes the guys at Stone Temple Pilot, it took them a lot of years to say, we can't do this anymore. It's gotten to that point where we can't do it. And, you know, the same with the Van Halen brothers. You know, at some point they just couldn't, they didn't want to do it anymore with Dave because there was too much addiction and too much weird stuff. And it just happens. And, And you come to that breaking point where you say, I'm in a band with a super talented guy that we make great records and we're a great live band, but is the toll that I'm paying in my misery index, is it worth it to do it? And then the other question I have to ask is, are we as good as we used to be? Has the substance abuse caused us to be less than we used to be? Am I asking our fans to pay the same amount of money that we used to or more for something that's not as good as what it used to be? And that's something that weighs heavy on my mind as well. And so will I do it again someday? I probably will. But it's got to be right, and I have to just make sure, and not just for me, because I can walk off the tour at any time. But here's the problem with walking off the tour. You piss off dozens of promoters. You leave your road crew guys hanging, because you can take 5 or 6 guys out on tour with you, to guitar tech, drum tech, tour manage, sell merch. Like, these guys, their livelihoods are based on commitments. It's not like they get salaries 12 months of the year. They get paid when they're out on tour. And if I say, I'm canceling this tour because I can't deal with it anymore, those guys are out thousands of dollars in their abilities to pay their mortgages and feed their kids. And then you've got booking agents who won't get their 10%, and your managers who won't get their 20%, and those agents the promoters who lost their money because they spent a shit ton of money promoting the shows, buying ads in magazines and radio. Like, doing a tour is not just about musicians. It takes a huge organization of people, and then you got fans who, they have to go to the hassle of getting refunds for their tickets, and it's just like, if I'm going to do it, I have to know that it's right. And when there is a break in Fozzy that makes sense, and I know that it's right, I'll give it a shot. Dude, I've done so many dumb things in my life. I've thrown away so much money trying different things in music. I mean, the amount of money that I have lost is I have to laugh at it, because it's just like any business. If you want to open an ice cream parlor or a sandwich shop or a hardware store, it's a risk, and you know that you could do well or you could lose everything. And so I'm not afraid of taking a risk on my own money. What I'm afraid to do is take a risk when there's a lot of folks involved. So, because, just like you guys, it's like, listen, we all want to be good dudes. We all want to be somewhat responsible. We all know that we can quit at any time, but just like any marriage, if you get married and have kids, well, yeah, you can walk away, but what does that do to the kids? And what does that do to again, I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying every decision, as we get older, we recognize that there's consequence decisions, and it's important to weigh a little heavier at the preparation department. So sorry it took me 38 minutes to answer that one question.
That's all right. But speaking about responsibilities and other people, we know you're getting ready to get in the studio, so we'll let you go.
Well, listen. Like I said, the reason I'm driving to Tampa instead of flying is, first of all, I'm going to be down there for 2 weeks, and I want a car. I don't want to pay to rent something. And also, I'm bringing my entire studio down because I'm renting a place. We're actually recording in a studio, but I'm renting my own place to set up my own studio to do guitars and do all my kind of production work in. So I've got, $20,000 worth of gear in my car. I look like Sanford and Son. I've got speakers strapped to the roof. The truck's awesome.
What kind of car does the Duke of Metal drive?
I have a boring Toyota Camry. I have a man's truck at home, a king cab truck, but the Camry is the one that when you're going to do an 8-hour drive from Atlanta to Tampa, it's the one that doesn't cost you, $5 a gallon to drive down.
Exactly. So when you get around to doing another Duke solo album, because if I have to, I'm going to kidnap you and force you to do it. I'd like to do a duet, and I'll sing the Michael McDonald parts.
Nice, dude. I'll tell you what we'll do. What song can we do?
What a Fool Believes?
Well, of course, we could easily do that, or we could do Taking It to the Streets, because that's always a good one.
Yeah. We could do like almost any song from the 70s, because he did all that studio work with everybody.
Everybody.
Like
He's on
Steely
everybody's
Dan?
record. Yeah, the only record he's not on from the late 70s is probably Never Say Die, Black Sabbath. And he may have been on that too. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think I heard him in there. I think they secretly auditioned him between
Ozzy and Dio?
Yeah,
It was like the first call?
I couldn't remember Ozzy's name.
Yeah, don't worry. Yeah, it's Prince of Darkness. Yeah. The cool thing about that was that he actually had the Bill Ward beard back then, like the big beard. So actually, Michael McDonald's look is in the 70s is more current than it's like he could easily be in Lamb of God or Mastodon, because he has the same look. He had the huge, kick-ass freaking beard and the long, hair with the butt cut in the middle. He looks like every dude in a heavy band today.
Yeah, he does. That's true.
That was a cool era. That late 70s, even for looks. If you go like if you're listening to this right now, the millions of folks that are listening to this, go immediately and Google search Journey photos 1977 and witness the majesty of Neil Sean's afro
and
Jufro.
and the Jufro and his Fu Manchu mustache and sporting the Japanese kimono.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the look, dude. I mean, the bell bottoms and the silk kimono with the Fu Manchu mustache and the afro. And that, dudes in the 70s looked amazing. And that was back when everybody kind of wore those bell-bottom jeans that they'd pull them up to be hip huggers, like pull way up, but their ball sack would go on one side, so the seam would go up the side, so just like you had like a baked potato.
Snake and eggs in the basket.
That was a good look. Unfortunately, I can't pull that one off.
Me neither.
I didn't come factory equipped.
So what you're saying, Duke, is you enjoy a good mantle toe.
Oh, come on. Dude. But not when it's a seam in the middle. I like it when it's parted, like all the junk on one side.
Oh, I see. Yeah, like you
like
want
the Rolling Stones. Like you look at any photos from the 70s, and the package is always positioned on one side.
I didn't notice.
Oh yeah, you got to go back and inspect that.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, we call it the baked potato. Yeah, it is. Dude, I'm serious. Go Google search any band from the 70s, doesn't matter who it is, and check out the package. It's always pulled to one side. It's never towed in the middle.
Yeah.
It's always pulled to one side. I guess it's because it looks more impressive if you gather all of it on one side.
Yeah, you got to
like strength in numbers.
You got to do what you got to do.
All three of them, you know.
Yeah. It's like,
I did.
Come on, boys, party over here. You know what? I did notice one time I was watching. They had this Jim Dandy documentary, and
Ooh.
Jim Dandy from it was Black Oak, Arkansas. I'm sorry. Jim Dandy would wear those like tight spandex pants, and
right.
It was like, where is the package? And then he, I swear he was performing, and I saw he had a full boner, and it was all pushed to one side, like you said.
Yeah, you have to push everything to one side. It was the way of the 70s. It's like in the 70s, everybody parted their hair in the middle, and in the 80s, it went to the side. You know what I mean? Like everybody started doing the George Lynch and the Sebastian Bach thing, where you would swoop the hair over one eye. That was that. And then in the 90s, your hair went in front of your eyes, straight down. You know, like the Kurt Cobain thing, where you couldn't actually face the audience. You had to have hair over your face. So hair has taken many forms.
Yeah, now
as the ball sack has. Sometimes the ball sack is pulled to one side and displayed there. And of course in the 80s, you know, I think it was just more of, like you were saying, it's the manto kind of or the moose knuckle.
Yeah.
And
for our
and
Canadian
90s,
brethren,
everybody
That's
had
right.
baggy pants on, so there was no the revealing of the sack.
Yeah, see, like when you were talking about hair, you left out the 2000s when it leaves your head and goes to your back.
That's right.
At least that happened to me.
Well, yeah, I don't know what happened in the 2000s where everybody was given permission to cut their hair. And you know what? I shouldn't say that because I actually in 2005 I fell prey to the cut your hair thing. But mine came from having hair down to my waist for 10 years, and thinking, well, maybe I'll try something different. And then the first gig with the shorter hair was the worst gig of my life, and all I could think about is grow, baby, grow.
You know what? I swear this is the truth. When I used to have really long hair too, and I let it grow and get healthy so I could donate it because I knew it was time I had to cut it because I was getting thin.
Yeah. I
took in your solo album, and there's that one picture of you with short hair, and
yep.
I wanted that haircut, but because I got part Jufro, I got a little waviness going, I couldn't do it. So, and then it was my hair got too thin anyway, so I just buzzed it.
Well, then that's what I always say. It's like I'll go Scott Ian, Bruce Willis, Jason Statham in a second. I won't hesitate when it starts to go. I'm not doing the little fiber spray or the Bosley thing. It's like, dude, we're lucky that nowadays, like, there's a lot of like cool dudes like yourself who wear the either the bald or the really close Jason Statham thing. But there was that period of time, and it also depends on kind of what you're used to as well. But I grew up my whole life on stage having really long hair, and it was just kind of part of the kind of like getting ready for the gig. Because you guys have known me for so many years. Like, I never wear my hair down until 30 seconds
right before you go on stage,
into the intro. I take my hair down as soon as I walk out on stage, and as soon as the show's over, I pull it up because having long hair is a pain in the ass.
Oh.
But it just becomes more about kind of the same way like in that Clint Eastwood movie, Every Which Way But Loose. Every time there was a fight, he would turn his hat around backwards. It's the same thing with the hair. You pull the hair down when you get ready to fight and on stage, and you go into battle mode. And when it's over, you're back to casual. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Well, I take a total opposite stance of you. I would get hair plugs in a minute. I've actually thought about selling one of my kidneys to get hair plugs.
Ooh. What you should do is go to Max Cavalera and get him to harvest like 4 dreads and just do 4 huge plugs. You know what I mean?
Get the Hare Krishna going.
Massive plugs the size of like deer antlers. That would be amazing.
I should do 6 of them in the shape of a Star of David.
That would be unbelievable.
Or a bullseye.
I just, you'd have to, you'd stay high for 6 months just smelling the pot fumes like that is soaked into those dreads. So, which is actually pretty good. You get a contact high for free for 6 months.
Nice. Awesome. Well,
so what else is going on with you guys, man? Have you been to any good concerts recently? What's going on in the Maximum Threshold world?
What's the last thing we've been?
Oh man. It's at the House of Blues. I went and saw. Oh, who the hell was that?
Pop Evil.
Yeah, Pop Evil.
Stone Sour.
That's right, and Stolen Babies.
Nice.
Yeah, I got to see a lot of my favorite bands this year. Of course, I got to see one of my top 3 favorite guitar players, Rich Ward, in Fozzy with Saxon, nice. Gentleman Leather.
That was a treat.
I got to see Tesla this year. I got to see Clutch.
Oh, cool.
I got to see Steel Panther a couple times. It's been a good year.
Man, I have to say, I am in love with Steel Panther. That band is so good. I just didn't know anything about them. I saw that Death to All But Metal video like a couple of years ago, and I thought it was cool, but like I didn't think much else of it. Like I was like, yeah, that's cool. That's really, but I didn't really know they were a full-time band. I thought that was this kind of like a side project for a bunch of really good musicians because I knew it was Russ from Fight, and but I didn't really, again, like I didn't go online and read their bio or anything. I just saw that, I saw the video. But we did this tour opening for them in Australia. They're playing in front of 10,000 people. Like, they're a huge band. I had no idea they were that massive of a band. Just they're such a good band.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm not going to try to tell somebody who likes Cannibal Corpse that you have to like them, because if it's not your style, it's not your style. But just as a somewhat snobby musician who like can appreciate a great guitar player and a great drummer and a great singer and a great bass player, that is them. Those guys can play. They're amazing, and they can all sing. And it's good. It's fun. It's a fun rock show.
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
it's kind of like, you know, Van Halen meets Poison. You know, that kind of vibe, that kind of delivery mechanism. But man, they got some heavy riffs, and it's a cool thing. Like, I'm glad they're out there doing it, because again, it's, you know, for me, it's just like movies. I love horror movies, but I don't want to. Every movie I see, I don't want it to be a horror movie. Occasionally, I want to see a comedy or a drama. And I'm the same with music. You know, I like going to different types of shows to kind of fill that desire to see different types of music. And I tell you, they're a cool band. I'm really happy that they're doing so well. I really am. They're great guys. You know, that's another thing. When you see a band that talented as players, and you see them having success, and then you meet them and see what nice guys they really are, and how appreciative they are for their success, and how humble they are, then it just makes me want to support them more.
I used to work with Travis for like a couple months, because Travis is from a suburb around here, and Russ actually lived here for a while too. He was in a I'm not sure if he lived here or traveled here, but Travis and Russ were in the same band in the Cleveland area for a while.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah, and another really good guitar player was in that band as well, named Mike Zuder, who I think he does. He used to do some of the stuff with Paul Gilbert when Paul Gilbert would like go to Japan and stuff.
Yeah, he's big over there.
And they were like, Mike also had a band with his brother called the Zooters and Magnify, and they got Russ to come from Fight to be in this band here. And Travis was in the band as well. Yeah.
Man, I loved those first two Fight records. I don't know, did they ever do a third Fight record, or was it just the two?
Just the two.
Yeah, I mean, those records are great, especially the first one. I just think I absolutely love that record. And I thought, just like Accident of Birth, you know, and Chemical Wedding for Bruce Dickinson, it was like I was really happy for Bruce with those records, just like I thought for Rob. Those two Fight records were great representations. You know, it's nice to see dudes that you really look up to as singers, and you know, you love their former bands. It's nice to see them do something that you think is equally as good in a different way.
Yep.
We got a clip here of Michael Starr doing a promo for Michael over here. Want to check it out?
Yeah, please.
Listen to this. It's pretty funny.
Michael Strong, you motherfucker! Ow! A maximum threshold, baby. Woo! It's Michael Starr from Steel Panther.
There you go.
I have
That's awesome.
I have a friend who lives around here, and she's short in stature. I guess you can say she's a midget. And
Nice.
I actually met a bunch of people at a Steel Panther show. Mm-hmm. So she'll just like, whenever I see her, whenever, she'll just randomly call me and just go, Michael Strong, you motherfucker, and hang up. So I had to have Michael Starr do that. Yeah, so when you do the next Duke album, don't call Michael Starr, call Michael Strong.
Okay, I will. It'll be the first thing I do. Well, we got to do our duet anyway, so we got to have to work that out up front.
That's right.
Well, cool. We got fellas, man. I know we tried to work this out like last week, and maybe even the week before that. So I appreciate you
no problem,
making
man.
time for me tonight, man.
Anytime,
I really do.
man.
And like I said, it's cool because I haven't talked to anybody since we started making this record, and really excited about it. It's cool to kind of. I know that when we get on the phone, we just kind of blab about stuff. That's just because we're friends, and it feels like a conversation as opposed to, you know, something else. So, but always great to chat with you guys.
Oh, anytime.
Glad
man.
to see that you guys are keeping it up, man. And,
yeah.
And
going 8 years now.
I know, man. It's crazy. It's funny because, I mean, I guess our lives are a lot parallel. You do something you love, you work hard at it, you stick with it, and it'll grow,
That's
and
great.
And people know it's real with you guys too, because you guys are real fans. And you know everybody. You're part of the scene. You're not just kind of wannabes who want to get in there and and say, oh, I talked to so and so. You guys are the real deal, and that's why you get big names. Like when I see Chuck Billy coming on your show, it's like Chuck's not just going to come on anybody's show, because he's a legend, and it's cool that you guys have built this thing where you get these really big names to come in and talk with you because they know you're the real deal. So congrats on all your success, fellas.
Oh, thank you. Same to you also.
Yeah, and you're always welcome on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would love to talk to you once the record's finished. I've got a couple of more weeks to finish stuff up, and then we go into mix and mastering. And once I get everything finished up, we'll chat more, and I'll tell you about meeting Yngwie Malmsteen in Australia, and tell you about going to see Joe Bonamassa in Atlanta on a night off, and tell you about we can talk about how amazing Heart is just still to this day, and how Ann Wilson, I don't care what people say she looks too heavy. Well, I don't care what she looks like. So let's keep all of those things, and we'll get some bullet points. We'll talk about more Michael McDonald stories.
More baked
and I'll
potatoes.
tell you about the other time that I crap my pants on stage.
Yes, that's right. Don't give it all away in the first act.
That's right.
And we'll talk more baked potatoes.
If we've learned anything in this business, we've learned about teasers, right?
That's right.
That's right. All right. Well, we know you got.
All right, fellas.
You got some crop dusting to do.
And I will talk to you guys real soon.
Sound
all
good.
right, brother. Be good.
All right, you too, man. Later.
Bye.
And there you go, man. We're going to take a break here. We're going to come back. Here's some Fozzy for you. This is Blood Happens. All right, Maximum Threshold. We'll be back right after this. Horns up.
Fists in your baked potato.
That's right.
I'm a street sweeper, scene stealer, double barrel key keeper, living my life on the fly. I'm a cold breaker, face shaker, I'm a planet earthquaker, not gonna stop till I die.
You have just listened to an exclusive interview on Maximum Threshold Radio. Thanks for listening, and please visit us at MaximumThreshold.net.